All right, day 2 of semester research project presentations. Let's get started.
Okay, so we did our project all about implicit biases. So we have a few parts of today's lecture, but we're going to start with something a little fun, I guess. I don't know if you consider it fun, but
no, it's very fun. Don't worry. It's quiz. So Leah will pass out quizzes for everyone. Hopefully you have a pencil. Basically there's, I think, 18 questions. You're just gonna read it, and then based on what you read, you're gonna write down a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 based on how likely you're to do something. So if you're not very likely to do it, put a 1. If you are, put a 5. And then also don't really think about it. You do your gut reaction, write it down. Try to avoid 3 as neutral. Like if you are leaning one way, then go ahead and pick a 4 or a 2. But yeah, just use that gut. I'll give you 10 minutes. When you're done, smile and wave. Yep. Might be online people. Should have done a Q. Okay. They might just be. Yeah. It's a good one.
Apparently somebody else having a quiz. Y'all should have taken up instruments and played the Jeopardy theme song in the back.
What is song? We can play my favorite song right now. Ordinary.
Do something. There's no sunshine right now.
Oh, this is plans of clean water. Okay. Everyone needs water to live, so. I'm okay with it. You can dance.
Sammy doesn't like to drive to class, and today I looked out the blue and I was like, Sydney, it's raining. And she went, okay.
Yeah, I said you can drive me to school, I guess. Much rather walk. I was also running late, so, yeah,
I was on that too.
give and take.
At a period of time, like shortly after the pandemic, I was walking from my house to campus. It's about 2.5 miles. So, yeah, it was always awkward when I walk in the morning. It'd be just, nice and sunny and everything. And then in the afternoon, pouring down rain.
Perfect timing.
It's one of those days that I'd ask Trevor or Dr. Shawnee for.
Well, I wonder how he's doing. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, if you guys haven't signed up for that, please do. With the form that Dr. Caden sent out,
The master's.
masters.
Did you confirm the first tea time?
And 2,
Two.
yeah,
Is that paid for or we paid for?
it was paid for, but for students. So is lunch.
Can you, how does it work if you're only able to do 9?
That's probably what most people will do.
Okay.
Still working. I see a head down. Okay, that's fine.
Wait a second, I'm analyzing myself.
Oh, you don't have to do the bottom. Don't do this box. Oh, okay. Just make sure.
That'd be tough.
Yeah.
Kirsten's the fraudster.
She's getting really interested.
About how to grade herself.
But yeah, probably do that. Total scores. We can do those in a minute. That's step 2.
Good.
Sorry, didn't mean to rush you.
And by the way, this quiz is, we're gonna trademark it, so.
All right, Terry.
Can't find it anywhere else.
Okay, so now the best part is we get to count like your scores. So it's every 3 questions are like clumped together. So like nut questions 1, 2, and 3. If you add up your numbers, that will be your box for anchoring. Oh my goodness. I don't know what happened here. This works. If you need a calculator, let me know. I'm kidding. I'll be your calculator. We can count on our hands.
And it's just each 3 questions grouped together, lump your score.
What if you get a score of?
Well, then that means you had 5, 5, 5.
Use your piggies.
Yeah. 5, 10, 15.
I guess that works too.
We are.
Counting meters, you don't have math meters.
Yeah.
They're different.
Guess I could still be playing music.
Thanks for talking
No pressure, but I got a 98% on this, so.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, the Kevin's.
It's 5s or 4s over here.
I'm shooting for a 7.
Oh, there, you just won't pass.
So, yeah, typically if you have a low number, like your low numbers indicate like less bias versus high numbers indicate high bias. So if you picked high numbers, oh well, but then again, opportunity for growth. That's basically the option.
I'm 53 years old.
So many, yeah, use time.
Still
So
time.
much time. So we're gonna share our scores with you once you guys do your math, so you guys can hopefully feel a little better.
We'll disclose.
Yeah.
They're better at math than they are introspective. I think they're all done.
They're done? Okay, cool. Okay, so for our anchoring, we had Dylan with lowest, and then I was the highest.
We'll explain what all these mean here in a second.
Yes. So right now, we didn't want to tell you first because we're, then you read the questions. You're like, well, I'm not biased. No, you get to have the unknown. And then for likability, we have Olivia, because Olivia was our special guest because she decided to take it, and Madeline. They both had our lowest scores, and then me again and Kyle have the highest. Leah is lowest for confirmation, and Kyle's highest for confirmation. Overconfidence, Leah's lowest. Dylan is highest. He was only one away. He was really close, but
Getting the max.
yeah, that was good. And then affirmative.
Affinity.
Yes, thank you. 12 for most people, except for Kyle. Great job. Low bias right there. Even though it's only moderate. And then we get to attribution.
Attribution.
Thank you. And then, hey, I was lowest finally, and then we have Kyle who's highest. So, we're definitely got some bias, but that's okay. Opportunity for growth here, guys.
That's what our presentation's for.
Yeah.
So.
So implicit biases are unintentional attitudes or beliefs towards others. Also just situations that can affect auditors' judgments during decision making that can typically lead to incorrect findings or conclusions just skewed on your beliefs.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the different types of implicit biases. So the first one is the anchoring bias. And so that's when auditors rely too heavily on one piece of information, or someone comes up with some idea and everyone just kind of goes along with that idea rather than having more diverse perspectives. And so a good example of that would be auditors relying too heavily on preliminary assessments made by management. So before an audit begins, management usually submits various different documents and auditors get that, and then they obviously have to audit that, and not doing enough analysis on that information and relying too heavily on that would be an example of anchoring bias. So the next one is likability bias. So that's when auditors make favorable judgments for perceiving the client as more likable. We've talked about this one a couple times in this class so far, and the example for this is whenever auditors get to know clients too well, which oftentimes happens, which is why we have things like rotating auditors and stuff like that nature, because auditors can oftentimes give more favorable judgment towards those clients whenever they start to like them more. And also, this can also go in the opposite direction, where if an auditor dislikes a client, they might actually give them lower judgment or bad judgment when they shouldn't be. So the next one is confirmation bias. So that's whenever you have an initial idea or a hypothesis and you kind of just seek out information to confirm that bias. And so an example of that would be auditors believing that the controls are initially very strong, and so they don't do enough testing to properly confirm whether or not the controls are as strong as they should be. So the next one is overconfidence bias. So that's whenever auditors overestimate their own ability to identify fraud or assess risk. So an example for that would be an auditor who's particularly experienced. Maybe they're a senior auditor, they've done similar work in the past, maybe it's with the same client. And so they end up taking like shortcuts and stuff of that nature, just because they think they already know the answer. And so they may end up missing fraud as a result of that. So affinity bias is whenever auditors trust an individual or company more due to them sharing similar characteristics. So an example of this would be something like a Truman alumni who ends up working for an auditing firm, and then they end up auditing Truman State University. They might be like, well, we went to the same university. So they may end up giving more favorable judgment because of that reason. Then finally, we have attribution bias. So this is when an auditor may attribute the success of a client or company due to all of their own factors and attribute any failures due to external factors. And so an example of this would be an auditor may contribute poor internal controls due to maybe a specific bad employee or their lack of diligence or ethics, rather than looking at the overall company processes or management, how whether they're being trained properly or whatnot.
So now we're going to talk about how to address implicit biases. So the first one is self-awareness. Auditors should always kind of keep a close eye on their own bias and how that may affect what they're doing. So regular self-checks can be really important and helpful as they go through the decision-making process and auditing process, just to help alleviate any skewed judgments. The next one is professional skepticism. It's really important that auditors always just have kind of a blank slate going forward and don't always just assume that everything is working how it should be. Obviously, in this line of work too, it's just always important that you're keeping a close eye on detail. Diverse perspectives, that can be really helpful just to challenge different blind spots, as everybody has typically a different opinion on something or just how a process should unfold. And so having somebody that can either play devil's advocate or kind of just bounce off of your ideas can be really helpful in determining which way to go forward. And then structured decision making is also really important, just to eliminate any emotion that may be clouding a judgment as you're working through something. So just having rules and guidelines in place for how you should move forward in something can also help to eliminate different biases as you go. And then training and education is really important over time. Just constantly having an awareness about bias and how it might affect different things that you're working on. As you, like I said, doing those self-awareness checks just to be sure that you're not applying bias where it shouldn't be. Training on that and educating your employees is really helpful.
Okay, so the last little bit of this class is basically going to be 3 case studies. We're going to split you guys into groups of 3. So obviously you 3 can stick together. One person can go with Kirsten and Maddie, and then the other 3 can remain together. You're each going to get a different case study, which they're pretty simple. So it really shouldn't take too much thinking, but it's just to kind of get your brains working with what we kind of lectured about today. And then we'll give you guys some minutes to basically talk about that, talk about the questions. And then we'll basically come back, talk about each case study as a group, and see if we feel any more educated on implicit biases. Yeah. Dr. Barnes gets to discuss it.
I was
really joking.
Matt can read, Matt's gonna be frozen.
We'll see how far the discussion goes. Obviously, it's 9:50, so we're gonna have to something like 10 minutes at least.
Oh.
I have more like Alameda than.
Yeah. Everyone's first score.
You're a staff auditor on.
Filibuster, I can filibuster.
If we noticed that one employee was being bonus, that's inconsistent with.
Trying to think of like, what's that? I guess we can't play that game. You know that game where it's like you type in one word and then the more words.
Exo?
No,
No, it's like a picture and then a picture forms based on what words.
but
Yeah.
can't really do that here. But I was like,
What
it
role?
was like one word to describe each. I guess. How biased people feel. I'm trying to think of like examples, if any of us have like examples in the professional workforce. But I have a feeling no one's gonna sort of be like, yeah, I was biased here. So,
People still dress professionally.
raise your hand if you're overconfident.
It's just.
Confident, not raising your hand.
Or yeah, or
If you raise,
about being overconfident.
if you raise your hand, you're not overconfident.
Yeah, that's
I
so
like-
true.
I know I'm overconfident.
You're like, if someone tells you you're overconfident, you're like, no, I'm not. And then it's like,
See, overconfident.
yeah, you're overconfident that you're that you're not overconfident.
Place of authority. Why I stand business. Rank.
So like, we all got that on this last one.
Affinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, or was it attribute?
HR shop, they know what they're.
Actually, I think it was. I think it was.
It's the second to last one.
Which?
Affinity.
Come on forward.
They should be doing.
Scores with what they're actually meaning. Go back over the definitions.
Oh, yeah, now we've defined them.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Like what it means for us, so I can really just.
Big finals.
I know. Hopefully they pass. Apparently, I had a student asking about pivot tables. Was it? I wonder if it was mine or AJ.
No, it was AJ's. She came in and she was like, said that you would give us, or like tell us to make a table and give us a picture of the.
I don't tell them that because I'm always worried she's gonna. So my students never know that, so it's like a happy surprise
That pivot table's on there or that?
that they get to see a picture of it.
They
They don't. That doesn't. They don't know that. So I'm like, that's like I don't know why you tell them that, but
Well, and that was my thing. It was just like,
then they're not gonna.
well, she thought that the picture was, she was gonna have to do something with the picture to embed it into the.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It,
that's how that's gonna work.
it's hard to explain that they're gonna get an example of what it should look like in the end. That's why the final's always easier than the other stuff. There's this one guy who was like, you meet with me again, and they met with me last week to talk about it, and then he wanted to meet again this week, and he was like, I can't meet you. And I was like, I don't know what else I can do for you. Like, just need to go over it again, I don't know.
I will say the girl who came into tutoring, like when she first came in, versus where she's at now, I'm like, I'm like, I don't know what she just like study it over and over and over again. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's
It just doesn't click for some people. They don't, there's the concepts of like these functions and formulas don't make sense.
Yeah. And sometimes it's really small things where like she forgot to close the parentheses, so then the function's all red.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Or she forgot like a comma.
Mhm.
I'm like, look, like where your cursor is, it says that you're in
Mhm.
right now.
That's, yeah, and it like, yeah, and it like, it turns pretty green.
Yeah.
It's fun grading it, and I was like, I wonder if I was like this when I took it, but I mean, I got an A, so I don't think so.
That was probably not super duper smart, but I figured I did.
I remember like the count ifs, sum ifs, average ifs messing me up and X lookups, but back when we took it, we had to do like, it wasn't X lookup, it was like V lookup and then index match instead, and that was,
I don't
now
like
it's just X.
Oh, how do they taught people that?
I mean, we almost had to at the beginning. We watched all. I like got ready to teach them all. And I don't know. Like,
The kids so stupid, they would never figure that shit out.
That's why I think it's like
You don't have evidence.
even less.
Yeah.
But then much
Yeah,
harder.
yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I didn't like the index because we had to do.
yeah. Oh my god. I did.
I was like, I don't know. Why would I use it?
What days are final?
Tuesday, perfect day, perfect day.
It's still in. It says 1:30 to 3:28.
Oh my god.
I was
Right
like,
early.
hey.
1:30 to 3.
She put AM and said.
And
That's
like, if that's what it is, I'm not going.
Ours was on Friday at like 7:30. I took it
Oh,
early because I didn't.
no.
want- I think I
don't
didn't.
think
I'm like dreading.
I did that.
You took it.
The first exam, she was running around the entire time, like coming up over your shoulder and being like, you're not working fast enough on this one. And I was like, please never do that again, actually. That was all.
She loved.
And the second
to be
one-
like, which question are you?
Yeah, the second one she did better, but then she had somebody else come in, so they were like constantly
Oh.
between the rows, and I was like, please just, I was like, this is so bad.
You ready?
It's just distracting, like, it's
Yeah.
like somebody like,
She
like,
was
rustling through their backpack the entire hour, so it's not like, it wasn't bad.
I think it's your.
That class was something else. In ours was, it was just the first time she was teaching it, so our first test was 20 questions. Not a single person in the class finished more than 10.
Like 40-something%.
And then, so she had us take it a second time the next class period, and we could combine our scores. The class still did bad because it was hard.
No, she's like, just drives me crazy, just does slides the entire time,
Yeah.
and hands us a completed Excel sheet, and I'm like,
She's like, look at the
if you
example.
could actually show us how to do it, that'd be great. And she's like, I don't have time. I'm like, well, didn't go over
You can
10
choose.
slides the whole time, like, probably be a little bit.
Which I think that's what feedback I told her. I was like, just pick like a few concepts.
She just keeps telling it, like, that's what we told her. We were like, if you could just like show us how to do it. And she was like, I don't have time to do that. I'm like, you really don't need to go over the same like 10 slides though every class.
She doesn't show you how to do this stuff in Excel.
She gives you the data file that's already completed. And it's just like, just study this.
Super slow.
And like occasionally she'll have us like try to do something ourselves.
I always get all the first try. Write notes so I can look back on it.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a lot harder.
I think so, like,
As I had it with Ouija.
running a final review and then
He
going back and doing like a.
To do everything.
No.
Yeah.
Like I was telling Carla today, the homework is like, all, like, you're actually doing stuff, but all she teaches
Just
is
like,
like. the
yeah,
content stuff.
I'm not excited.
And the exam,
It's like
like I
easy, but then like
so
there's
hard for the exam last time,
And I know
thinking
there's
it
gonna be
would
like
be
one or
like the
two
first exam where it was
about it.
like,
What
I'm all the work type of thing,
Yeah.
and it was all, like, it was
Like,
practical
RI.
concept based, so I missed
So,
like all the
like,
question
question,
stuff,
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
I'm
busy
honestly-
doing all the Excel stuff, and like.
I'm not,
Like, I'm,
of a
it was funny, cause I did really bad on the first exam, and I doubled my score on the second exam.
If that might.
And I was like, girl, and she emailed me after. I did not get a good grade. She's like, Madeline, I see the efforts. I know that you're trying. So she's like, you're not gonna fail this class. I was like, girl, watch. My favorite is when you yawn and she's like, I know this class is exhausting, guys. I yawn so loud every time.
I haven't done that in a while. What would happen is I'd be studying for CPA during class. I wasn't paying attention. And I would just be so zoned in, I would just forget I was in class and just let out a huge yawn in the middle of her lecture, just completely by accident.
It's so embarrassing when she calls on anybody because no one's
Like,
listening to
why does she
anything
do
that
that?
she's saying. She's like, I'm gonna call on the quiet ones. I'm like, you're ruining everybody's life.
All right, I think we're all ready to discuss.
Fun thoughts, everyone feel content.
Everybody's ready.
Don't work on that with your.
All right, I believe the soccer boys had case one.
We'll read through it really fast. So you're leading an audit of a mid-sized private company. The CFO, Laura, has been extremely friendly and helpful throughout the engagement. She invites you to your team. She invites her team to lunch, chats constantly about her family, and always responds quickly to requests. But during your review of the year-end adjustments, you noticed a large manual journal entry increasing net income. Laura says it was to catch up on some prior overstatements and tells you not to worry. It's just an accounting cleanup. So what did you guys come up with how might your perception of Laura influence your professional skepticism?
You said it might influence it because we might be more willing to trust Laura's judgment and therefore not ensure.
Mm-hmm. I'm like trying to think of like when, like if I had any experiences like this past summer with like clients being really friendly, and I definitely think this is probably something I could work on. If they're like rude and stuff, I'm gonna automatically kind of assume their stuff. I'm gonna look at their stuff a little closer. But like if they were nice and got back to me on time, I probably would trust them a little more. And I think that is just an implicit bias that comes along with it. So it's interesting to just like catch yourself doing that. Okay, so number 2, what steps would you take to investigate this adjustment without making assumptions?
You said review the prior overstatements on your own to see if they're legitimate or ask other board of director members about Laura or the overstatements themselves.
I know corroboration is like a huge thing in audit. Just like, again, you gotta always just kind of, if it's something huge like that, like a manual journal entry that's like unusual, you gotta like go back in and check it.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do we maintain objectivity when the client relationship is very positive?
You said you can have a positive relationship at lunch and be extremely friendly, but still request sufficient information to obtain reasonable assurance. Being friendly shouldn't limit your access to information or affect the ability to do your job.
Any other thoughts?
If anything, you should be able to flip it and use your positive relationship with the client to, I guess, explain the situation, explain why you need more evidence, so that you think of being more honest with them about your skepticism with their work.
Yeah, we thought it'd even be easier since she responds quickly and she's friendly, so she's not willing to hide anything. It's more just like give the things that we need and then we can check it for you and then get it done.
Yeah, I think that's good analysis.
I think some people might, I don't know, be scared to like try and mess up a positive relationship, but like if something like that, like trying to correct them or like trying to question something they're talking about makes them mad at you, then that obviously means they probably weren't as great as the person as you thought.
Yeah, and we also talked about like if they're a CFO and they're potentially hiding something, they know that we're gonna try to find it, so it's.
Any other?
So maybe you should lead with just accusing them of fraud.
There you go.
If it stays positive, then
And
Is that what we did?
if their demeanor changes, like they've been really nice, and then all of a sudden they're like not giving you information, that could also kind of give you.
Any other thoughts from the other groups?
Here's and I can see you thinking over there. I have thoughts, but not on this, sorry.
Oh, you had case two. Oh, which group had case two? You guys, okay. The confident senior. So your staff auditor on engagement, and while reviewing a sample of payroll entries, you notice that one employee is paid a bonus that seems inconsistent with company policy. You mentioned to the audit senior, who replies, "Yeah, I saw that too, but this client's HR is sharp. They always explain this kind of stuff later. No need to follow up. You're not sure whether to press the issue or let it go." So that's the case. And first discussion question: what role does experience and authority play in this situation?
Well, so the audit senior, he's likely been on this engagement before. He could very well be right in that this could be just a routine thing, and HR will get back to us later. However, even though he could be right, we still need to, trust but verify. So he does have the experience, he could be right, but should we just rely on what has happened in the past? Probably not.
Yeah, it seems like the audit senior has some authority biases towards the company itself, or the HR department in particular. And then, how should you respond to the senior's comment?
Our answers generally boil down to politely yet firmly insist that we follow up and make sure that this is actually something legitimate, and that we might need to speed HR up on their whole explaining it to us process.
I mean, I guess this is just like kind of interesting. I don't know if I want to do a poll, but like I know I'd probably be a little scared to, especially if I'm like staff one, like just coming in, and then a senior on the engagement is like saying no need to follow up and says it kind of like loosey-goosey like that. I'd be kind of like, it's hard to like place yourself in the shoes of someone trying to be really professional and like correct them, but I think it's kind of scary. And I mean, show of hands would be a little scared, or would everyone be really confident?
We had a bit of an advantage in that one of our group members is frequently in a position of authority. And he shared insight with the rest of the group members that that position of authority still exhibits a certain amount of uncertainty. So just because you're in a position of authority doesn't mean uncertainty doesn't exist. I'm not going to mention
Good
anything.
insight, Thomas.
I think the associate too, like something would be just like posing the question more in like a rather like, no, I think you're wrong. We like need to follow up, but rather being like, oh, I'd kind of like to follow up. Would it be good to follow up in like a week or so? So you're kind of, rather than saying when, or like, can I do this, saying like, when can I do this? So
Yeah, we talked about if we were a first year in this scenario, we could use it as like a learning experience, be like, so I know this might not happen in real practice, but why would you do this, or what are the reasons for that?
Yeah.
Mhm. I also think it depends on your relationship with the senior or the senior auditor. I know I worked with a senior last summer where, like, not necessarily a hostile relationship, but he was pretty cold to me, and it made me not want to talk to him at all, which was very unfortunate when I worked on his engagement. So in that situation, if he says let it be, then I don't know if I would have the gusto to go up to him and tell him otherwise.
You just go behind his back because you're going to bring him down.
Yeah, there you go. The last question for this case: what's the risk of relying on assumptions instead of confirming with evidence?
Oh man, we rattle up a whole bunch, bankruptcy, the audit. Generally speaking, it's not a good time. If you don't do the work, you don't have the evidence, you can't put it in the work papers, you can't show that you actually can support your opinion as well as maybe you could have if you had followed up and did have it.
Yeah, we've talked about extensively in this class that this is like a big reason, like a lot of auditors during like the Sarbanes-Oxley time went into such, like they went under such scrutiny because they just kind of trusted the management, or they kind of helped the management, but they didn't really try to have them explain these things in a lot of cases, which meant they didn't have evidence, and they got blamed for that. So you just need to document everything. And again, that's the point of this whole question or presentation is like question everything. So it's interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to go into a field where they're like, don't trust everyone, but like, or trust everyone, but like not on, like, don't just take it as it is. Like always look into it. Like weird to go in being like, I'm going to trust you, but I'm going to be suspicious about it.
It's the old adage, trust but verify. So.
Yeah.
My dad's favorite saying, and I always feel like it's better to be obviously safe than sorry, but that's easier said than done as
Mhm.
well. But yeah, with everything in life, my dad is a federal agent, and all the time he tells us all the time, and it drives me and my mom crazy because everything we tell him, he's like, trust but verify, and he always goes and checks it every time, and it drives us insane. But
I didn't
just
mean
feel like
to attribute to your insanity.
because I think it obviously applies here, and that you just always want to make sure all the ducks are in a row.
And if someone asks you to go to lunch, just constantly think, is there another motive for that? Don't do that, but. Okay, so the third one was basically the startup stereotype. You're auditing a startup that recently closed a round of funding. The CEO is a 25-year-old wearing a hoodie. The office is a ping pong table. I think it's supposed to say has a ping pong table. And the controller used to be a software developer. You're reviewing revenue recognition for a new subscription service. It seems complex, but the controller assures you it's fine. We followed GAAP. One of your team members rolls their eyes and says, typical startup. I bet they're cutting corners. So are there any visible or cultural cues causing assumptions here? Group 3.
Yeah, we said obviously the hoodie that the CEO is wearing, and then also like the office having like a ping pong table and backs.
This is a.
Yeah.
So,
Work.
That really got us stuck. We had like a debate for a second. Table.
It's like basically there's a giant, like a tennis court. Just you. I don't know. Maybe this can be a thing.
wins this point determines if we use LIFO or FIFO.
It's just a way to objectively do things. I think this question's interesting because we're like kind of, I don't raise, but like we're told to be professional, but then like things are getting more lax for like people wearing jeans to work and stuff like that. And it's like, do you judge someone if they come into work wearing like a blazer every day versus if they just like wear jeans every day? It's like, obviously this is a little different because it's a hoodie, but like, would you like see someone differently if they look super professional every day, like suit and tie versus just like jeans? And I don't know if I don't know what I would think. I might think the people who are wearing like suit and ties every day are like super just like put together, but that obviously doesn't correlate exactly. So it's interesting to think about. I would say,
Actually, I have a weird experience with this one. So there was a guy in my office who on Wednesdays, he always made it a point to like dress up. And there were some interns who would dress up with it. Like he always wore like a suit. He always had a tie. And he could tie like ties really fun ways. So I always thought it was cool. And then like apparently it just like phased off a couple like people in the office like always wearing a suit. Like it's so like weird. Like why is he wearing a suit? I'm like, so we're supposed to be professional, but when he's dressing professional, you guys want a bitch. Like what? Sorry.
yeah,
Like you guys are saying all these negative things. He looks put together. What's the problem?
that's what's interesting. I mean, it's like people just assume like, why is he dressing up? Is it like another motive? Is he trying to be better than us? But like, who knows why he's dressing up? So it's like the same thing. Yeah. So I mean, don't judge people based on their clothes, obviously. So number 2, how can we make sure we're evaluating evidence, not appearances?
Not obvious, but just judge on like only the physical data.
Mhm. I think that is obviously what you have to do. Just because something seems right doesn't mean it is. Just like something seems suspicious doesn't mean it's suspicious. Goes with what we've been talking about all day. Just look into things further and try to figure it out. I feel like that one is pretty straightforward.
Sometimes in my brain, I'll try to flip it where like if I see someone wearing a hoodie in my head, I'll be like, okay, but like what if they were wearing XYZ? Like would I think about it differently? Or like, oh, are they wearing a professional outfit? Okay. Now what if they were wearing XYZ? Then you can think about it like, is there an actual bias there?
Okay, last question. How would you help your team challenge their assumptions while maintaining a respectful tone?
Like just confirm that there's no actual evidence of the claim that they're getting photos and ask, to see like the actual work, so they don't have to take someone's word for it. Sorry, I read that weirdly.
No, I think, I mean, obviously this team member, whoever there is, they're not, I don't know, the most professional by rolling their eyes.
Definitely biased.
Yeah. So I wouldn't take what they say, straight up. Definitely maybe have a chat with them about not judging people, professionally. Yeah.
And you could also kind of like, depending on the person, gauge, like, would they take feedback like, oh, hey, let's not judge, or would it be better just to set an example and like by you still showing a like professional manner towards like the hoodie or the CEO in a sweatshirt hoodie, the CEO in a hoodie, like they might like follow suit in not like some of their unprofessionalism may fade if you like set a good example. So
Set a good example by wearing a hoodie for the rest of the time.
yes,
All of us are gonna wear a hoodie on our first day of our new jobs. We're making a stand. Okay, so those were, I think, just 3 simple case studies that I think did a good job of like showing some of these biases. There was just a kind of a summary slide about these case studies. We kind of associated each case study with a bias. So for the first one, it was obviously, sorry, likability or familiarity bias. This was with Laura, the friendly CEO. And we have basically verify a lot in our explanation. So we kind of covered all that. Friendly doesn't mean correct, verify the substance of transactions. Second case study, we didn't really talk about authority bias, but it kind of is like overconfidence, basically just trusting someone because they are a level of authority over you. Things to note, always trust but verify. Wow, there it is again. Even senior auditors can be wrong. So I think that's a lot of people have that problem. Just trusting someone because either like just going along with everything your parents say, like not ever thinking they're wrong, or like these professors or Dr. Barnes. But these people can be wrong. So yeah, don't trust them for everything, but
Blindly.
blindly trust them. Yeah.
No, don't blindly.
Don't blindly. Yeah, blindly trust Dr. Barnes. But yeah, and then the last case study wasn't really like a bias per se, but it was kind of just simple stereotyping. We're going into probably offices that are going to have a diverse either just clientele or coworkers. Don't stereotype, it's pretty bad. Obviously, so just check yourself if you ever, like we said about the hoodie, if you're like, oh, they're wearing a hoodie, that's weird, then be like, is it weird? Like, does it actually mean they're unprofessional? So on and so forth. So yeah, skepticism requires evidence-based thinking, not assumption-based. So overall, you just got to go through your jobs thinking about what people are saying. I wouldn't say go around and just like constantly be on edge, like everyone's trying to fake you out and stuff, but trust but verify. Yeah, thoughts, questions?
Did you guys write these questions on this quiz?
Yes, yeah, that's why we're trademarking it.
I don't trust them.
Oh no.
okay, yep, go ahead.
How do I know I can verify this? Because I don't agree with number 7.
Go back. Can you go to the scores of ours?
We're open for feedback. There,
Yeah.
this is our first beta run or alpha run.
What's number 7?
The first one, confirmation.
Well,
I can't tell if it's 6 or 7, I can't lie.
It's the line. Yes, okay, you come across 2 articles about a topic you've already formed an opinion on. One aligns with your view, the other challenges. How likely are you to read the one that supports your opinion first?
But does that not take into account that you could still read the other one after?
I think it was more just like first gut. If you like go to read that one first, I think that's what I was trying to ask, not like, and kind of you disregard the second one versus.
Yeah. So I'm assuming, I need you guys to reword this.
So how likely are you to read the one that supports your opinion first? Very likely or unlikely?
Well, I said that I would read the one I would like very likely read the one that I was whatever saying that I was biased on it. But I'm like, I would still read the other one after, but I didn't know that. But yeah.
Again, first look at these questions. Can't be too hard to do.
Because it is, you're like, by reading the one you want to read to first, it's like confirming, just making sure I'm saying that word right. Confirming like what you already know first, rather than being like, ooh, well, like, I'm curious about this other one because it's probably different than what I think. And so it's like, not necessarily that like you're not gonna read the other one, but you know.
Anybody have any, anybody they matched up with?
Anyone really overconfident?
Did anyone get a perfect 15?
Yeah. Who's the most biased here?
Confidence was my highest at 12.
Not,
It's like
can't beat
Dylan
Dylan.
still-
Yeah.
Did anyone beat us? Or go lower than us?
You don't have to disclose. of
Yeah,
course.
any
Dylan had the
judgment.
lowest with read on the show.
Oh, you beat me?
Austin had a 13.
Okay, well.
Very strongly.
I'm never taking Dylan boating because apparently anchoring is just not a thing.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All yours.
Gonna edit it.
One more.
We'll add your name to the